A woman's heart breaks when her husband admits he cheated on her with his boss. But instead of crying, she transforms the betrayal into motivation, building a luxurious, powerful life that makes everyone, including him, regret ever underestimating her. It's not just revenge, it's rebirth. He stood there, eyes trembling, words slipping out like broken glass. I have to tell you something. I cheated. For a moment, I didn't even blink. My heart didn't shatter, it froze. The world around me became silent, but inside my chest, every heartbeat was screaming. I could see his reflection in the glass wall behind him, the same man who once promised me forever, now confessing that forever ended in someone else's arms. He said it was his boss. A mistake. A moment of weakness. Funny, isn't it? How easily people call betrayal a mistake, as if it didn't take planning, as if it didn't take choice. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there, holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than rage. That night, I didn't pack my bags. I packed my pain. Every word he said, every memory that burned, I folded them neatly and kept them close. Because I knew someday they'd become my armor. Days passed. Then weeks. He thought I'd come back begging for closure. But instead, I went missing, not from the world, but from his version of me. I stopped trying to fix what broke me. I started fixing myself. The first morning I woke up alone, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes weren't sad anymore. They were calculating, determined. I whispered to her, "Let's build something he'll never touch again." So I did. I started small. A desk in the corner of my apartment, a notebook full of wild ideas. No capital, no support, just anger turned into energy. While he was out at corporate dinners pretending to be powerful, I was sitting under a single dim light, designing my first brand. Every time exhaustion hit, I remembered his words, "It was just a mistake." And that was enough to keep me awake. My first client came from a DM, then another, then 10 more. I stopped counting money. I started counting freedom. There's something dangerous about a woman who learns she doesn't need anyone to save her. 6 months later, I launched my company officially. The name? Solace. Because that's what I found in the middle of my storm, peace that didn't depend on anyone else. The same man who once called me emotional now watched from afar, confused, as my brand trended online. Every post, every achievement, every new luxury that entered my life, it wasn't revenge. It was evolution. He tried to come back once. He said, "You've changed." I smiled and said, "That was the point." My pain had interest, and it paid back in millions. My scars didn't fade. They became the foundation under my success. And with every deal I signed, every award I held, I silently thanked the betrayal that built me. But what people never saw was the loneliness behind the glow. The nights when I stared at city lights wondering if power could ever replace love. Because healing doesn't come with luxury, it comes with acceptance. I didn't forgive him for what he did. I forgave myself for staying as long as I did. And that's when I truly became free. Now, when I walk into boardrooms filled with men who underestimate me, I don't correct them. I let my results do it for me. They ask where my confidence comes from, and I just smile. Because if they knew how much I had to lose to find myself, they'd never question my power again. People call it success. I call it rebirth. I live in a penthouse now, the same city, but a different skyline. My mornings start with silence, not sorrow. And my nights end with gratitude, not grief. Sometimes I still see his face in old photos. He looks happy, I hope he is. Because I'm not chasing revenge anymore. I'm too busy living the life his betrayal built. You see, he cheated for attention. But I built an empire for peace. And when you find peace, everything else becomes noise. That's what people don't understand about betrayal. It doesn't end you. It introduces you to the version of yourself you were always meant to become. The woman who once whispered, "Why me?" now whispers, "Watch me." Because he broke the version of me that needed validation. And in her place, I became something unbreakable. The truth is, the pain never disappears, it transforms. It becomes art, success, discipline, fire. And that fire is what makes people turn their heads when you walk into a room. So no, I don't hate him anymore. He was just the opening chapter. My real story started the day he left. And now, when they talk about me, they don't mention heartbreak. They mention power. Because that's what happens when you stop chasing apologies and start chasing purpose. He confessed to cheating with his boss, and I quietly turned my pain into a millionaire life. Success changes your surroundings before it changes your soul. When my company started growing, people who once ignored my calls suddenly wanted to collaborate. The same people who told me I was dreaming too big were now introducing me as the woman who made it. But they didn't know. The real story wasn't about making millions. It was about reclaiming myself. Money didn't fix the pain. It just gave it a different view. High ceilings, glass walls, and silence that echoed louder than ever. At night, when the city lights danced across my room, I'd sit by the window and remember the girl who once begged for love. She didn't exist anymore. Now there was a woman who didn't chase closure. She created empires. One evening, I received an invitation, a charity gala hosted by his company. His boss, the woman he cheated with, would be there too. For a second, my old wounds stung, but I smiled. Because life has a way of returning full circle, not for revenge, but for revelation. I went, not to prove a point, but to walk through the same doors that once closed on me, this time owning the building. When I entered, heads turned. Not because of my dress, but because of my calm. Confidence is the most expensive thing a woman can wear, and mine was priceless. He saw me. Our eyes met across the crowd, and for a brief second, time paused again, just like the day he confessed. But this time, I wasn't the broken one.
He was.
He walked over, his voice low. "You look incredible." I smiled softly. "I know." He laughed awkwardly, searching for something familiar between us. But all he could find was distance. The kind that comes when two people outgrow a shared story.
He said he wanted to talk.
I agreed, not because I needed answers, but because closure is sweetest when you no longer need it. We stepped outside, the city lights glowing behind us like a silent audience. He asked, "Did you ever love me?" I looked at him, not with anger, but with peace. "I did. Enough to let you destroy me once, but never again." He lowered his gaze, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of realization. And in that moment, I understood. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for us. It's the final act of freedom. He said he missed the way I believed in him. I replied, I just redirected that belief into myself. Then I walked away.
No dramatic goodbye.
No tears. Just quiet power. Because sometimes, walking away gracefully is the loudest revenge. After that night, I didn't think about him anymore. My focus shifted to expansion, new offices, new cities, new people who believed in vision more than validation. I learned that success isn't built from comfort. It's built from scars that refuse to stay open. I started mentoring young women, those who'd been broken, silenced, underestimated. I told them the truth. You don't have to get even. You just have to get better. And when they rise, they'll understand what healing truly feels like. It's quiet, powerful, and permanent. The media started calling me the silent storm. I didn't argue. I liked it. Because storms don't announce themselves. They just arrive and change everything. Sometimes, people ask me if I ever think about love again. The answer is yes, but not the same kind. Not the kind that begs or bends. I want the kind that meets me where I am, unshaken, whole, fulfilled. Until then, I'm not waiting. I'm building. And that's something heartbreak teaches you. When you lose what you thought you needed, you make space for what you truly deserve. One day, I was on a flight to Milan for a global business summit. As I watched clouds drift beneath me, I realized something. My entire life had changed because of a single betrayal. Pain had been my greatest investor, and it paid the highest return. When I landed, I checked my phone, hundreds of messages, interview requests, partnership offers. But one text caught my eye. It was from him. No drama, no excuses. Just 6 words: "I'm proud of who you became." For a second, I smiled. Not because I needed his approval, but because that message confirmed what I already knew. I had finally closed the chapter. I typed back, "So am I." Then I deleted the chat and boarded my car. Because some stories don't need an ending, they just need distance. Now, every morning, I walk into my office, walls filled with achievements that once felt impossible. My team looks at me with admiration, and I tell them, "You don't rise by accident. You rise by decision." And every decision I made, from staying silent that night, to walking out, to building my brand, wasn't about him. It was about becoming her. The woman who doesn't chase love, she attracts respect. The woman who doesn't cry for closure, she writes her own ending. The woman who doesn't fear loss, she builds so much that losing anything doesn't break her anymore. He cheated with his boss. And I turned that betrayal into the blueprint of my empire. I learned that revenge fades, but power lasts. That the best response to heartbreak isn't hate, it's evolution. And the most beautiful kind of success is the one that doesn't scream, it simply shines. Because when you master silence, the world starts to listen. Now, when I sit in my penthouse balcony at night, the city beneath me hums with life. I hold a cup of coffee, hot this time, and think about how far I've come. Not from him, but from who I used to be. People still ask how I did it, how I turned pain into power. And I always say, you can't control who hurts you, but you can control what you build from the ruins. That's how you win. Not by proving them wrong, but by proving yourself right. He once said I was fragile, but fragile things break only once. Now I'm fire, quiet, steady, and unstoppable. Because true luxury isn't in diamonds or cars. It's in peace, dignity, and the freedom to walk away with your head held high. And that's what he'll never understand. I didn't just survive his betrayal. I turned it into my legacy.